Hey, what's up guys, it's Nick2. Starting tomorrow, there's a drops event over on Twitch, so if you guys want to come support me, hang out, ask any questions that you might have about the build, you can get some free cosmetics if you're interested in that sort of thing. I'd love to see more of you guys around, and I would really appreciate the support. But anyways, getting into the video, people constantly in my chat are asking me, what is your build? It looks updated, what did you change about it? Because I made a previous build video, which I still recommend for people very early on into the game. But at this point, I'm level 76. I've been playing an absolute ton, and I've made a little bit of adjustments. I've tried a myriad of different builds, and this is what I've landed on in terms of like really efficiently fast farming, just plowing through nightmare dungeons. It's what I'm calling cringe shadow rogue build or whatever. It's really what I like. Obviously, feel free to use whatever skills you want, but yeah, as you can see, the damage of it is unbelievable. It's really good for just clearing things incredibly quickly, and even with the survivability nerfs, I feel perfectly fine. Twisting Blades also did get nerfed, but this build got out of that pretty well. This build isn't going to be like super in-depth. I'll probably have more in-depth builds later down the pipeline, and I'll have way more variations of builds. This is just what I'm using currently, and what I think will be perfectly fine for most of you guys, going from level like 50 all the way to potentially like 80, 90, even 100. We'll see. All right, let's just get into it. I'm going to start off with the skills. By the way, I have a website that's going to have all of the information for this. So if you want to see, how we're spending all the individual skill points, etc., make sure to check out the website. So as you can see, the skills that I'm going to be using: Puncture for the guaranteed vulnerable application in single target. Twisting Blades, we all know about Twisting Blades, okay? Dash and Shadow Step for the movement here. Dash is crazy, giving you 50% movement speed. It gives you unstoppable, so if you get stunned, you can get out of the stun. It gives you crit, and it also stuns enemies. Dash is just so we can get through things faster. This build ultimately is built around going really quickly, farming loot quickly, farming XP very fast, but also trying not to die and do a lot of damage with both of our shadow skills. So Shadow Imbuement, I don't know why more people don't use this. It's actually unbelievably good. By the way, if you want to use, a different build, Dark Shroud, Poison Trap, Death Trap, I've tried all of it, and this is just what I personally like the most, okay? I'm not making any value judgments here. I'm not 100% certain on what the absolute best is. It's too early in the game to do that. If you want to use any other variation, feel free to deviate, but this is just what I've been having success with, okay? Anyways, Shadow Imbuement is unbelievably strong, gives you a crazy amount of AoE. Pretty much any time that you use it, you're going to imbue your next skills. You use the Twisting Blades twice, both of them are going to be shadow damage, and then anytime that it kills an enemy, that enemy will explode for 50%. 50% isn't that good. The thing, though, is that the density of mobs in this game is crazy. You will often have 10, 15, 20 mobs. Let's just say you have 10 mobs, right? And you have one elite in the pack, but you have 10 like little crapper mobs, okay? You pop Shadow Imbuement, you dash through the entire pack with your Twisting Blades, excuse me. All 10 of those guys die, they blow up for 560% damage onto that elite. That is a lot of damage, and it just helps you with your AoE clear. The explosions kind of happen delayed because of how Twisting Blades work, so you impale some guys, you dash through, and by the time you dash through, the Twisting Blades goes through, and it is going to cause this chain reaction of explosion. Shadow Imbuement is just really insane, and it has a low cooldown. So you are just going to be spamming it like an absolute crazy person. And it's also really nice for the AoE vulnerable application, okay? Shadow Clone is really powerful because it just gives you 80% extra damage. I need to test more on this. I don't entirely know how it works. I don't know if you're getting 80% increased damage. Remains to be seen. I've been having a pretty good time with Shadow Clone, but you could very easily do pretty much the same build and put on Death Trap if you want. I don't think Death Trap is going to be as good necessarily, but you can get pretty low cooldown on Death Trap if you're playing with it properly, but usually you want to pair Death Trap with Poison Trap. But Shadow Clone, it just really makes a single target that much better. It also gives you unstoppable for 5 seconds. So that's really nice for getting out of crowd control. And because we're using Preparation, we're going to have very low cooldown on this, which I'll show you guys in a second. But this lasts for 15 seconds. And because of the cooldown reduction that we're going to have with Twisting Blades and with Preparation, we get our Shadow Clone back pretty much instantly. What Preparation is instead of Inner Sight, you just use this. Every 100 energy you spend reduces your ultimate skill cooldown by 4 seconds. And then if you use your ultimate, it resets all the cooldowns of your other skills. So what you can do is you can pop your Shadow Imbuement and then pop your Shadow Clone, and then it'll instantly reset the cooldown of Shadow Imbuement. So you can go Shadow Imbuement, Shadow Clone, Twisting Blades, Shadow Imbuement again. And then by that time, your Twisting Blades is already traveling, and then you're just going to have infinite Shadow Imbuements like a crazy person. The reason we're not using Inner Sight anymore is because they nerfed this, and you can use this on bosses still. Like if you're about to do a boss fight, you could just swap to it really quickly and still gain some value on bosses, but they nerfed it to where it has a 4-second internal cooldown, so it's not as good for ad clearing, and we have a lot of energy through our legendaries and through our skill tree. Combo points I could see you using once you get a certain unique, which I'll make a video on, if I can ever loot the item. Getting into our skill tree here, again, I have this on the website. I'll quickly go through it, I don't want to waste your guys' time. Puncture maxed out here for the vulnerable. Twisting Blades maxed out, and I have a bunch of ranks to this 4 on my glove, so that is really, really strong. Sturdy and Siphoning Strikes gives you a crazy amount of healing, and you need that DR. Shadow Step for the stun and the crit. Weapon Mastery, I also have 2 of these from my amulet here. You want to use swords because multiplicative damage increase all of the time. Daggers are nice for the attack speed as well, though, so don't feel bad if you're not using swords because the attack speed is nice there. Rugged, I just have 1 point in because I just had a leftover point. A little bit of survivability. And then I have Dash here with Enhanced Dash and Discipline Dash to apply some CC and to increase crit damage. Concussive, I am proccing because anytime I crit a dazed enemy, they are knocked down, and I'm using a legendary that dazes, which we'll go over in legendaries. But I have this up pretty often. It's not too insane, but I don't have much else to put my points in, so that's still pretty nice, 12% crit. And then I am also dazing enemies a lot, so my evade cooldown is getting reduced a ton by that. Then I have 3 points into Exploit and 3 points into Malice for damage. Max out the Shadow Imbuement so the poison does more, or so the explosion does more damage. And then the Vulnerable application is very good here, and it pairs perfectly with Exploit. You have Exploit for the first 3 seconds of the pack, and then one enemy blows up with Vulnerable, and then it kind of just chains, and you just have Vulnerable all the time. Shadow Crash is nice, but you're getting triple Consuming Shadows. Anytime you kill an enemy with Shadow damage, you generate 30 energy. This is one of the reasons that this is so good. As you kill one enemy, they blow up instantly full energy. That's really nice. 3 points into Precision Imbuement, so we get 9% crit chance. Almost all of our Twisting Blades uses are going to be with Shadow Imbuement in AoE situations because our cooldown is so low. So getting 9% crit chance all the time, super nice. Obviously maxed out the Shadow Clone, 3 points into Innervation for the energy. And one thing that's really nice about playing Shadow Clone and not Death Trap is that you get to keep momentum for the 20% damage reduction, 30% increased energy regen, and the movement speed, which is super nice. Whereas when playing Death Trap, you pretty much need to play Exposure, otherwise the cooldown is simply just way too long. That's going to be it for the skills. If you want even more movement speed, you could find 3 points somewhere and remove it and put it into Adrenaline Rush and then Haste. I guess 4 points. You'd probably take them out of Concussive or something like that. I don't know. I haven't really found that I need the movement speed. I feel perfectly fine. So in terms of our legendaries, I have a couple of uniques. I don't want to go over 100 legendaries. I'll have some of them in my website or on my website. But I'm just going to go over the ones that are mandatory and some of the ones that I found to be stronger. And I'll, of course, talk about my uniques. But I don't want to spend 20 minutes talking about legendaries. I just want to give you guys a good option and a good rundown of what you want to be aiming for. And then we'll talk about stats on your gear. So when it comes to the most important one, obviously the Twisting Blades legendary, so that it orbits around you, gives you a whole bunch of lucky hit chance. That is crazy good. The one legendary that I was talking about earlier is this lucky hit. Dealing damage to a vulnerable enemy has a chance to daze them. Because we have the Blade Dancer's aspect, our Twisting Blades has a ridiculously high lucky hit chance. It's 33%, but each blade orbiting has its own lucky hit chance of 33% as well. So we're pretty much constantly dazing enemies because every enemy that we fight is going to be vulnerable because of our Paragon board with the exploit thing and with our Shadow Imbuement. So we're pretty much dazing enemies constantly, which pairs very nicely with our Restore Energy whenever we crowd control an enemy. We're constantly crowd controlling through this daze and through this knockdown when we also crit a dazed enemy, which was happening all the time because our crit chance is really high. So we have a lot of CC with this build without having Poison Trap, and that's super nice for a lot of energy. And then we have Expectant here. This just gives us extra damage. Not super mandatory. Edge Masters is probably mandatory, just 20% multiplicative damage based on how much resource you have. That is really good. Our main survivability is coming from the aspect of Disobedience, which gives us armor. I have a very bad roll, so I put it on my amulet, so it's better, so I just have even more armor. But I think this is around armor cap, so if you get a near max roll, you'd probably want to put it on like your chest or your legs or something instead of the amulet. And then you'd want to put something more damage oriented, such as Edge Masters, on your amulet. You want the Twisting Blades one on your two-hander or your crossbow so that it benefits from the maximum increase. For my boots, I have the... For my boots, I'm using Penitent Greaves, which is just going to leave, this frost on my feet. I guess I don't have it in town, but you see it in gameplay. Frost on my feet, it automatically chills enemies, so I'm constantly crowd controlling them to get more advantage of this, but also I have extra damage against crowd controlled through stats and Paragon board and stuff. So this just gives me a lot of extra damage, as well as a 9% multiplicative damage inherent to it, so that's really good. My unique pants, this is really nice, which people are asking me about all the time. Effects that heal you beyond 100% give you a barrier up to 64%. This is really good because with Siphoning Strikes, we're constantly healing past full health, but you can also just pop a potion. Here, I'll go out here. Here we go, you can see the boots too. So I just pop a potion and boom, I have a barrier of 844. It just keeps going up because I'm over healing. So I just have a barrier all the time, which means I get a lot of extra damage reduction. kind of, not exactly, but I get more effective HP because I have a barrier, right? So that's really nice. I have not looted a legendary that gives me extra damage while I have a barrier up. If I did, that would be on my amulet, because you could get like 40% or something multiplicative damage while having a barrier up, and I have it up literally 100% of the time. You could pair this with even more healing. There's a lot of legendaries that heal you. Siphoning Strikes is a lot of healing on its own, but this is a crazy thing to look out for. But alternatively, you could just get some different things, which I'll mention on my website, like, you know, healing oriented or survivability oriented stuff. Or you could, you know, put Aspect of Disobedience on these legs, and then you get the double shadow step aspect on your boots, so you can have more movement there, and then put a damage thing on your amulet. Another very good aspect is critical strikes with core skills increase your attack speed. This is just nice. Having the attack speed means you attack much faster. You can just get your damage off. And then on the helmet, you definitely want this. Basic skills grant you damage reduction. I have the minimum roll, which sucks, but every once in a while you want to just throw out a puncture. 20% damage reduction is crazy, and you're definitely going to need it with this build. When it comes to stats, I don't want to talk about every single piece. I'll hover over everything real briefly if you just want to see what I'm doing here. But generally, I mean, I don't want to talk about every single piece of gear, because, you know, I would be here for 30 minutes and you guys would get pretty bored. So we're just going to talk about weapons, because that's mainly the most important thing that matters. You want to prioritize getting as much weapon damage as possible on your swords or your daggers, whatever you're using. And the best stat that you can possibly get on this is going to be vulnerable damage, because it's on its own multiplier. Second to that is dexterity, which is also on its own multiplier, which is a 0.1% per dexterity. So as you can see, I have 651 dexterity. That's 65% skill damage multiplicative, so dexterity is very strong. Outside of that, getting core skill damage, crit damage, and damage close is what you're going to want to aim for. My crossbow here is literally perfect. This is what I would have everybody get. Instead of crit damage, you can maybe get core skill damage, but generally, this is pretty much perfect, and that's what you guys want to aim for. Damage to dazed or stunned or whatever is okay, but not that great. And then on like your rings and stuff, you want vulnerable damage and crit chance if you can. On your gloves, at the minimum, get ranks to twisting blades. You can get up to 4, maybe even 5 later on in the game. This is unbelievably good. Okay, definitely make sure to get this. And then you also want crit chance on your gloves. For your amulet, I have 2 ranks to weapon mastery, which is a lot of damage. You can get ranks to agility skills, so you don't have to put points into agility stuff, but you kind of put points anyway, so not really that helpful. And yeah, I don't want to go over everything else. Last thing to look at, the Paragon board. My Paragon board is kind of scuffed. I have not min-maxed it. People just want to know what I'm using, so I'm just going to show you. But keep in mind that this is very scuffed early on. I'm literally just Beal crafting. I didn't even look at the other Paragon boards and stuff that I could do. That's just what I intuitively thought was pretty decent. So in my first board here, I put closer to just deal extra cutthroat damage for dexterity in range. This isn't great. I'm mainly doing this for the 10% damage reduction. The 21% cutthroat skill damage is pretty nice though. I'll take that, but it's not that good. Exploit is the single best glyph in the game. I have it attached to the no witness board because it's just the most point efficient. I could see you swapping this out later on, but I'm not using traps, and I see most people using the trapper board, so kind of had to improvise there. But exploit is insane. You get guaranteed vulnerable application in AoE. This is the thing that you want to unlock as soon as humanly possible. So basically you fill out this board, you just beeline it all the way to the top. Don't even care about maximizing this glyph here, just so you can get exploit as soon as possible. And you just go right up along here and you grab exploit, and then you get the accompanying strength. I filled it out and got no witness because we are popping our ultimate all the time. I don't care about how much damage ultimate does. I mean, 30% is good, right? But I want the 10% increased damage for me, which is up all the time. So that's 10% multiplicative damage all the time, which is pretty nice. There's also some dexterity you can get along here. And also, these nodes are really good. Damage to healthy, crit damage. That's really nice. And then I went further out here to get a cheap shot, and I'm going to grab this glyph as well. Cheap shot, we are CCing enemies constantly with our boots and with our days and stuff. So I pretty much, in AoE, I have this like 20 to 25% up almost all the time. And then there's a lot of really good nodes here. Crit damage against crowd controlled, whatever. I'm constantly crowd controlling, so this is really nice. And then at some point, I'll fill in this glyph here, and you can get some even more damage to crowd controlled and stuff, which is really, really good. And I'll probably go for the combat glyph. This just gives you more crit damage for your core skills, and it is going to restore some of the energy cost if they crit, which is going to happen pretty much every single time you press Twisting Blade. So effectively, Twisting Blade has 12% energy cost reduction, and you just get a lot of crit damage from this. Past that, I don't really know yet. I'm going to have to look into it more, and of course I'll make more videos in the future, but that's pretty much it for this video. Just wanted to give you guys an update because everybody in my chat is asking constantly, and this is what I'm going to be using for probably, I don't know, the next like few days until I figure out something else that I like. But I've gone to 76. Clearly the build works, and I hope you guys enjoy it. And you know, if you didn't like the traps, this is the build for you. I could try to... No, I need the crit in my gloves for sure. I'll just put on accelerating aspect, even though this... I think this imbuement legendary is pretty good, probably. Yeah, I mean... You have 1 mana instead of 4, like... That legendary, when it's not good, is probably not that great, but... If you get mana constantly, I mean, just press Blizzard and see if it continuously gives you mana, or if it only does it when it first applies a chill. Yeah, CDR wouldn't be too bad. It depends on if you want to play an ultimate or not. Like, you could go trap skill cooldown reduction if you want to play death trap, and cooldown reduction flat on your helmet, which you kind of already did, so if you do that, you can probably spam death trap a lot. Okay, I just get lightning struck because that thing is behind the wall. That's probably the worst affix that they put in the game. What up, Slushy? Hard to look at the buffs because the bar is constantly moving around. It's pretty ass. Well, you didn't answer the question. I mean, just see if it re-procs or not. That's all you have to do. But obviously, if it's literally 75% worse than it could be, it's gonna be terrible. Hello, can you show your Paragon board? Sure, I mean, my Paragon board's kind of bad, to be honest. I'm kind of just... I don't know how I feel about my board right now. I'm kind of just YOLOing points that work for what I'm doing since I'm not trapping. I have not, like, looked into Paragon too much, so... It keeps proccing? Okay, then it's good. That's all I needed to know. Yeah, so then you just need a roll of 4, and then it's good. There's a lot of different forms of crowd control in the game, so It procs on each individual form of crowd control. Yeah, for single target, you just have to bite the bullet on. Just doesn't feel that good, but there is some ads in single target. But there's a lot of ways in the game to just get like free crowd control. That like this, like 20% chance lucky hit to slow. This will proc because slow is a crowd control, so if I'm doing that, it'll proc it. I need to try accelerating aspect because the attack speed feels really bad.